Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone, and welcome to our virtual conference. My name is Mariana, and I'm honored to be your host today for Asia's first virtual conference, Leaders and Coaches of Asia 2024. This is a 3.5-day conference for leaders, CXOs, and coaches. This conference aims to illuminate the latest and most innovative coaching practices that can empower leaders and organizations. We have an exciting lineup of speakers and sessions planned ahead, designed to inspire, inform, and connect us all. Let's dive in and make the most of this incredible opportunity to learn and collaborate. We will be starting our conference today with a panel discussion. But before that, I will be playing a short video to help you understand why we need this conference. Just give me a moment while I share the video. Hope you all enjoyed the video. So as I welcome you all for this incredible journey, I would like to request you all to participate by asking questions in the questions tab, and they will be addressed towards the end of the discussion. So now let's welcome our panelists for today. Iftikhar Nadeem, an executive leadership coach and faculty member at King Fahd University of Petroleum and Minerals, Dhahran, Saudi Arabia, brings over 30 years of experience in executive education, leadership advisory, and coaching. He educates and coaches leaders through the EMBA program and the Leaders 2030 program of the MISC Foundation. He has led large-scale change programs in Saudi Arabia, focusing on digital transformations and IT-enabled business solutions, and has coached over 5,000 hours, including high-profile leaders. He holds a PhD in leadership coaching from Canterbury Christ Church University and an MS in Industrial and Systems Engineering from King Fahd University. He has completed advanced management programs at INSEAD and London Business School. An ICF Master Certified Coach, Iftikhar is certified in various assessments and is a certified corporate athlete trainer. He has served on the ICF Global Board and Regional Advisory Council for the MENA region and speaks at major conferences. Welcome, Iftikhar. Akhil Saxena, Executive Coach, ex-Vice President, Amazon, led customer fulfillment operations across APAC, MENA, LATAM, and worldwide customer service. Joining Amazon in 2013, he expanded India's fulfillment center operations and oversaw Japan, LATAM, and MENA regions. Before Amazon, he was Senior Vice President of Supply Chain at RPG Enterprises and spent 19 years at Unilever managing manufacturing and supply chain innovations. A certified coach from Coach Arya, Akhil mentors underprivileged youth, young adults, and senior women leaders. As an executive coach, he advises boards on supply chain issues and coaches C-suite leaders. He holds a bachelor's in mechanical engineering from the University of Kashmir and enjoys gardening, watching movies, and spending time with his family. Welcome, Akhil.
Thank you, Ed. Hello, everyone.
Hello. Vijayalakshmi S., an award-winning master coach and mentor from ICF and EMCC, has over 3,300 hours of coaching experience spanning 22 years. With expertise in executive, leadership, wellness, and conflict coaching, she is among the first globally to earn ICF Advanced Certification in team coaching. She is a sought-after speaker and mentor and the founder of Coach Consult, driven by the belief in playing at full potential. Her professional background includes leading HR for Hindustan Unilever's South Sales region and serving as principal consultant at CarpDM. Vijay is an alumna at the National Law School, Bangalore, and Xavier Institute of Management, Jamshedpur. She has held notable positions, including president of ICF Chennai from 2020 to 2022 and chair of ICF India Conclave in 2021. Vijay's accolades include the ICF India Coaching Excellence Guru Award 2022 and special recognition in the EMCC Global Mentoring and Coaching Awards in 2023 and 2021, respectively. She is the founding volunteer leader of Coaches for You, a pro bono coaching initiative born during the COVID-19 pandemic, showcasing her commitment to social causes. In addition to being a speaker today, she will also moderate the discussion. Welcome, Vijayalakshmi. And welcome, everyone. The stage is all yours, Vijayalakshmi.
Thank you. Thank you so much. First of all, congratulations to the coaches, Leaders and Coaches of Asia conference organizing team. It is no mean feat to organize a conference and an effort of this scale and nature, and something that really addresses the Asia region in particular. So advance congratulations. The keynotes that the conference started with last week were wonderful, and I'm still hoping that the sessions that follow, including ours, can build on that. So this is a very tough task because in addition to speaking, I also have to keep the session on track like coaches do, right? So most of us coaches have that job of ensuring that deep transformative conversations also happen within a certain period of time. So I'm hopefully going to be wearing my coaching hat, but I'm not going to be too worried because, my co-panelists here, Ifti and Akhil, are also seasoned coaches. So we will together keep things on track. But that being said, we have about 50 minutes to cover a topic which is like, you can write books on this topic, the impact of coaching in organizations. So what we decided when we were planning this session was that we'll kind of keep it simple. We will keep it focused, and we will try to address maybe 2 or 3 large questions, not necessarily theoretically, but also weaving in our various, experiences between the three of us, I think we have different life, geographical, cultural, and I think leadership experiences. So we hope to bring that in today. Some of the questions we are hoping we can navigate is really to understand what coaching means in an organizational context. Yeah, to start with that. And then we talk about different dimensions of impact and what's really the impact that can or is potentially possible through a professional modality like coaching. We are also hoping to discuss some of the critical success factors and equally so, the challenges to create sustainable impact of coaching in organizations and corporates. And we hope to be twinning really between the realms of leadership and coaching. So just to get the ball rolling, I'm going to start off with impact, and I'm going to invite Ifti and Akhil to add on their perspectives. The way I look at impact, and when you really understand impact as a physical phenomenon, impact is nothing but some kind of significant or major effect of something. Yeah. So I think the key word is significant or major. Obviously, every phenomenon has an effect, but I think what's important is what's the big deal? Yeah, the big stuff really. And when you look at impact in the context of, let's say, an organization, and coaching here being really that force that's causing impact, we can perhaps look at impact from the dimension of the organization's purpose, its mission, vision, performance, value generation, culture, stakeholder impact, and I wonder what else. So I'm going to first invite, Akhil to really talk about, Akhil's been a seasoned leader, you would have noted from his bio. How do you visualize impact in the organizational system? Yeah, what causes or what creates that kind of impact? And, Ifti, I would invite you to add on your thoughts as well after that.
So I'll get started and get the ball rolling. It's a very interesting question, and I think it's a hard one, and I'll be very candid about it because when we talk about impact of coaching in an organization, there are multiple dimensions to it, and I think those dimensions make it hard, but at the same time, it's not impossible to measure impact, right? So we should be very honest about it. Why is it hard? I think the first piece is it's the subjective nature of the outcomes that coaching delivers, which is sometimes difficult to measure on a day-to-day basis. So look at it from a perspective of a leader, it has intangible benefits. So some of the benefits of coaching could be improved leadership skills or better communication, more confidence, more engagement, better emotional intelligence, or a more safer environment for people to speak up. But these are very hard to quantify. Similarly, personal perspectives are very different. I might see some person with my perspective, another person could see the same person with a very different perspective. I would see change, but the change might not be noticed by other people, and therefore the opportunity to say coaching has created impact might be lost or might be different there. The other piece is attribution of results. Why is it hard? Because there are multiple interventions that are happening in an organization. There's organizational changes, structures, business environment is changing, people are changing, managers and reportees are changing. And there are many other training programs that are being run in an organization. So how do you attribute the impact of coaching to the actual change that is happening? The second piece is the time lag. If you coach somebody today, you are not seeing results end of the day. That results and change, the transformation happens over a period of time, and therefore the attribution becomes harder there. Similarly, impact of data, for example, to say, how do we measure data? What are the KPIs to look at? And in a business environment, profit, loss, etc., very easy KPIs to measure, but to measure to and think about looking at engagement, for example, or growth, for example, those are more subjective. There's a little more opportunity there for people to have deviations there. Similarly, employee engagement, right? In an organization where it's a hierarchical organization, coaching becomes harder there, and therefore the impact of coaching, even though there might be a coaching culture, might be very hard to measure. So what I'm starting off by saying is it's hard and it's difficult, but I'm also going to come back to say it's not impossible. And that's one of the things that I have learned over my many years of being a business leader, to say it's not impossible and there are ways to do it. And some of the metrics, some of the KPIs, some of the ways to look at it, I can talk about them. One of the things that I've always seen is a before and after, to say when you're starting a coaching initiative or you're working as a coach with a certain leader, you see their metrics before and after. Those metrics could be things like employee satisfaction, customer satisfaction, their own engagement scores with their teams, cultural pieces that are measured in an organization, satisfaction indices, etc. So before and after is one way to think about it. What do you want to achieve with coaching? Performance, growth, engagement is another way to look at what you want to measure. The climate cultures of an organization, ways of gauging satisfaction, both internal and external, are other ways to look at how to measure the effect of coaching. Performance reviews is another one. Regular evaluation, skill assessments, another way to look at coaching and seeing how is the impact of coaching coming through. I have also seen one of the biggest things I've seen is measuring impact is case studies and also success stories. When you're starting off an initiative in coaching, there are people who start demonstrating results faster than others, and therefore showcasing those success stories, talking about what it has meant for them as leaders who have seen the power of coaching, or getting them to talk about their personal transformations, I think has been very powerful. For me, it's been, and I speak from my own personal example, as when I was starting off the coaching initiatives at Amazon in India, I was like, okay, I first need to go through this journey myself. And that's how I became a coach. And when I saw my own ways of thinking changing, my own self-reflection, my own awareness improving, I could talk to my team and say, this is what I'm going through. And I think a lot of that was to say, okay, people are seeing the change in the leaders, and therefore this is effective. I think when I talked about coaching in the couple of sessions earlier, I talked about I would like to help people live to their full potential, but I realized as a business leader that I was getting to know myself. I was changing my leadership style. I was becoming more empowering, a better listener, and so on. And I think those examples and case studies and success stories are the nuclei for the crystallization of coaching culture in an organization. So the impacts can be felt in many ways, but I feel that the success stories and case studies and highlighting those could be a really strong, powerful ways to measure impact of coaching. I'm going to invite Ifti to come in and add to what I just said.
So thank you, Vijay and Akhil, and good to see or be here and in this panel. So thank you to the organizers. By the way, this is first time you're hearing my voice. This is very interesting. What Akhil has mentioned, I totally agree with him. But I would like to add something, which I have experienced. So impact is as good as we define it also, and define in a very specific context of coaching. First of all, is coaching the right intervention? And I learned this early on 15 years ago when I entered coaching world by started hiring coaches. That was my entry, so I was leading L&D business. So we found out that leadership training is not very effective. We put people in the classroom and do other things, but that's not very effective. And so we also learned the problem leaders are facing are very individual. So you cannot put 20 people in the classroom and lecture them on something, Maybe group coaching these days a little bit, close to it, but still they were very individual problems. So we said, okay, what can we do? Somebody suggested, there's a coaching, you can do that. So so as we know, part of the leadership revenue share is now taken by coaching. So coaching is integrated to leadership development program with action learning and other stuff around. So we hired coaches, we did something, but then second program when we announced leadership program, which was a big program, a couple of $1 million program, in fact. So we said, okay, we need impact, and we need to define, and we went to ROI Institute, the Kirkpatrick model, all that stuff we did. And I think we over-defined. I felt later when we learned from that experience a lot. I won't call it a mistake. We learned it, that what worked, what did not work, So first of all, we said coaching for all leaders. That was a mistake. There were those who are willing, there were those who are not willing. So we cannot have impact by coaching people who are not willing at all. They were coachable, but not really engaged. And there were those who are very enthusiastic, and very engaged into the whole engagement. So we had to separate those. We started separating them in the subsequent programs. So, and then the biggest lesson was when we created like a performance-oriented coaching program for that. And we started even telling coaches what to do. That was a mistake, to tell coaches what to do and what we want at the end, the outcome-based kind of work. So and I think coaches were struggling. I felt we are later when I learned coaching, then I said, okay, let me learn what is coaching so we manage these programs better. So I learned we should not define this impact too much, and let's hold it and let's them experience, and so, it was like setting specific goals for performance versus learning goals. That was our real learning, that learning goals are better than very specific goals. You have to achieve this 20% in sales, or 10% here in operation, finish projects faster. So not every project have to be finished faster sometime. So let them figure out what is the best thing to do. So that's where we said learning goals are better than specific goals to set. That was, and I started even preaching this to, ICF and other people, how the goals should be set. And there's a goal theory, and this was later confirmed by research at a major university in the UK, that specific goals is counterproductive in coaching. When coaching is the intervention, learning what works, what doesn't work, because we assume the person is resourceful, they can adjust to the environment, etc. So learning goals is a better way to go about it. Now, how impact happens, there are ICF studies around it, by the way, also, where communication or having a better relationship with the boss, is one of the outcome there. The younger generation, Gen Z, is valuing coaching a lot more. So obviously they will create more impact, So it's very human also to work with people. So this is where organizations also have to learn not to use coaching intervention as a means to achieve immediate results, or a very concrete metrics. So they have to really say overall, how can they create this culture which will, in the long term, impact the organization, make it a more learning organization, etc. Yeah.
Thanks, Nifty and Akhil. And, prompted by both of you, I want to also just bring in a little bit of perspective here. I think, both of you have really come into coaching or embraced coaching, not by design, but, by a need that you felt. And interestingly, when I look back at my own corporate life, when I was a pretty young manager and, working for a large multinational corporation, which places a lot of importance on both leadership and performance. I think I figured out, and at that point of time, I didn't know that it was called coaching, but I really figured out, something interesting. I realized that when people come into organization, I think beyond the money, beyond, the position, beyond everything else that people come in for, there's also this hidden, I think, desire, something inside for them to experience progress. And progress not necessarily defined in terms of, very quantifiable things, right? Promotion in the next 3 years, or X amount of salary increase or something far deeper. They wanted to be better people. They wanted to be better professionals. They wanted that organizational setting to offer them that something more. And when I now look at, the way coaching is defined, I realize that a coaching style or, a coaching culture or adopting a coaching approach is perhaps what is going to give people this space for growth. So I think growth is the word that I want to talk about. Yeah, coaching allows for a beautiful sense of growth, which people are craving for in addition to everything else. So I want to just link this back to the ICF definition of coaching, because I'm aware there are a lot of leaders here on this call. And while coaches may be very aware of this, I think I want to talk about this. ICF defines coaching as really, partnership with clients in a thought-provoking and creative process that enables maximization of potential. And this potential is both personal and professional. More recently, ICF also defined team coaching, which is very similar to one-on-one coaching, but the process is also, in addition to being creative, it's co-creative and reflective as well. Yeah. And it also talks about partnering with a team, not just the team, but also dynamics and relationships in that team, which again inspires them to maximize their abilities and potential. So it's a beautiful way of understanding coaching as maximization of a resource, maximization of potential, of growth. And in the context of teams, there's one more thing that ICF adds on, which is about enabling that team or that group of people, the collective, to reach a common purpose. So coaching is not just about individualized, personalized growth, but you're also looking at common purpose. You're looking at shared goals. And coaching is powerful enough in the way it's designed to be able to allow for that. So I just want to bring in this thought when you look at coaching in an organizational context. While, of course, you can look at coaching as a one-on-one kind of intervention with a private client, but the moment you bring in an organization, the organization usually becomes the sort of sponsor of this coaching engagement or intervention. So how do you then look at it? So it may be useful to look at it a little systemically. View the organization as one large team, team of teams, or as a system, if we may call it loosely, it becomes a system. And coaching then becomes this process or intervention that allows for growth systemically. If we spoke about learning goals, I'm talking about a learning organization. Coaching can allow for this entity, this system to be a learning system. So that's one way of looking at it from that context, which also means that coaching then becomes one of the organization development interventions, OD interventions, as we may commonly call it. So what does OD really do? OD is nothing but supporting the development of people. We usually think OD is all about people, right? People development. It's actually beyond. OD is development of people, strategy, systems, skills, and even culture. OD addresses all these components to enable organizational change. Every organization is a learning organization, growing organization, changing organization. So OD as a process supports all this change. And coaching is one of those interventions that can be a very powerful OD intervention. Some of the other interventions include things like consulting, mentoring, training, and counseling. And while coaching, I think, shares a lot in common with these other interventions, it is very distinct from any and all of these interventions. So, I know I've gone a little, into first principles and creating a paradigm, but I just want this to be, a reality check to be done by both of you. Maybe Akhil, you can bring in your perspective about, as an organizational leader who's again led teams and teams of teams and large teams, does this make sense? What, this perspective about organization as a system and OD, what I've shared, does it kind of actually make sense from a practical context?
Absolutely, Vijay. Absolutely. And I think the key word that you used was growth, right? And the OD aspect of it. Any organization any entity is looking for growth at a top line, bottom line, social impact, shareholder value, organizational value, etc., etc. And then any human being which is working in that organization is looking for their own growth tied to the organization's growth, right? Therefore, growth becomes an imperative for people in organizations. And I think today, as a business leader, when somebody's thinking about coaching, what is it which is on top of their mind? On top of their mind is, how do we let the potential of the people that we have in an organization flow through so that it allows business growth, it allows better problem solving, better customer solutions, etc. And therefore, most organizations and leadership at most organizations looks at coaching for as two or three big things that it delivers, right? The first one is leadership development. It's a very essential tool for developing leadership skills, and those have many impacts like better decision making, better emotional intelligence, more strategic thinking. The way you think, the way you let others think around you becomes very different. That impacts styles of leadership. There could be leadership styles which are very directive, which are very top-down, hierarchical, versus very enabling, very empowering, very involved, consensual, etc. Right? Therefore, it impacts how organizations lead and how leaders lead and how it is tied to organizational growth. The other piece is it helps people in succession planning. Today, the world is a place where there's a war for talent, and any organization which has a coaching culture is a great ground for breeding talent. I came from Unilever, and you have heard enough and more success stories about Unilever to say how that became an organization which groomed big leaders and global leaders, therefore. And coaching was one of the hallmarks there in terms of how it let people grow. Organizations also look at coaching as a transformative tool for the culture. Most companies, I think every company hires people to come in and deliver something. There's a mission or a vision to be delivered. What's the best way to deliver results? The best way and the fastest way to deliver results is to tell people what to do. But then that becomes a telling culture. Now, when you come into a telling culture, people are not empowered. The people are being told, therefore, they're waiting for instructions, they're waiting for guidance, and therefore they become people who are not proactive. They're not leveraging their own knowledge, their own experience, their own ability to make change, their own desire to move forward. And that is something that many organizations have learned, that if you have to be really agile in today's world, it can't be a telling organization. It has to be an organization which is asking and finding ways to do things. And therefore, that cultural shift is very important. And I think most organizations now today are using coaching. At least I've used that as a piece of moving away from a directive organization into places where we let people think for themselves. We let them appreciate their own knowledge, their own potential, their own strengths, and move there. And the third piece is leaders look at coaching as an intervention which is aligned with organizational goals. Is there a strategic fit? Organizations are pivoting sometimes. Sometimes they're in a very early growth stage. Sometimes they need performance improvement. There's a leadership change that might be required, or there could be other interventions from a customer perspective that might be required. And therefore, they look at coaching to say, is it organizationally aligned to the goals and the mission and the vision of the organization? So, to my mind, as a leader, I would look at coaching as ways to look at people and say, how do I grow people? How do I develop leaders? How does it grow the organization? How does it change the culture and transform it? And also, how does it fit in with the overall mission of the organization? Vijay, you're on mute, I think.
Sorry, can you hear me?
Sure. Yeah, I can.
So I was wondering if in addition to what Akhil said, you could also, bring in this perspective of coaching in organizations, the ICF family organization that you are a part of, and I understand that there's some fantastic work going on. What's the experience of how members there, the corporations that are part of CIO, how do they experience coaching, and what do they see in terms of impact?
Sure. Thank you for reminding me about that. So ICF has 4 or 5 family organizations. One of them is CIO, which is coaching an organization. This is a new family organization, and it's only 4 or 5 years. Actually, in the last couple of years, it's became more active, and so now ICF, we are making individuals, coaches as a member. We are also inviting organizations to become member, So there are more things coming, but so we have about 70 plus global organizations who are member of ICF. And half of them are almost from US because it's more mature market for coaching. The big one, the largest is actually US Army right now. So, but from Middle East region where I am, we have many from Europe also, but here we have Emirates Airline or ADNOC or Saudi Aramco and, the central bank here, and others are member, so of ICF as an organization, So we are discussing what is in it for organization, For coach, we know that, there's a credentialing, there's education, there's other stuff, but what is in an organization? And for last 3 years, we are trying to define and fine tune the value proposition for the organization in coaching, for why would they become member of ICF also, so what is in it? So we found out first thing, when we go to organization, our customer is not a coach, our customer is a person who put the money for it, so CEO, VP of HR in large organizations or L&D, OD people, they are the one who are saying, okay, explain to me why should I become member and what value you bring in, So that actually has helped us with a lot of discussions with these member organizations. So it has helped us to understand what organizations are looking for. So we have recently even defined with the survey from them, what is the coaching culture in our organization? If these 5 elements exist, we call, there's a coaching culture at some maturity level. So there's a maturity matrix coming now to measure you are at a mature level or beginner or in the middle, something. So that would be one interesting matrix. Like if you have a budget dedicated for coaching, if executives are supporting coaching, if organization is making coaching available to everyone, democratization, we call coaching. So etc. So if these elements exist, we say, the culture is picking up or it's at some stage. Now, the other thing ICF-CIO is doing is also coming up with some kind of coaching excellence model for organizations, So that excellence model, obviously, whenever we talk about excellence, we basically talk about quality, our standards. So that means our organization has to comply with certain level of standards, just like EFQM standard or ISO standard or something. But that standard will define what is excellence in coaching in organizations, So this we believe, will help organizations in 2 ways. One, to manage the coaching business, because there are large organizations now spending a lot of money like TCS and others I know. So they need to manage coaching more, efficiently or, value for money, etc. And to create that culture of coaching, so promoting the coaching culture is also one of our interest, from ICF angle. So these are some major, new directions from ICF. I'm not here to, by the way, promote ICF that much, but I'm just sharing what is you asked me. So and that's a good platform right now. That's the only platform at global level that exists, and to have all organizations in one platform, what is happening in SAP, what is happening in Facebook, or what is happening in other organizations, they come and share with us. So we are able to then, create some value out of it for other organizations.
Yeah, thanks, FT.
So in future, don't be surprised if you get coaching consultants kind of designations coming, because organizations need people who can come and help them set up something, right? So these won't be coaches. These will be people who come with a solution, So it's not coaching then, as like Vijay, you were explaining what is coaching, what is not coaching. So consulting, there will be coaching consultants who will help organizations. I know in Saudi Arabia, like Saudi Electricity Company and others, they are setting up coaching platforms. They are setting coaching units or, organizations within. And they are now, one organization, and now they are selling as a employer branding, to attract new talent, that we provide coaching also. So they are mentioning in their employee value proposition that we provide coaching, so this is one of the 3 things they mentioned to attract people, so they need people to help set up those platforms, those organizational setups, the better strategies, etc. So these will be coaching consultants.
Lots of interesting stuff, and I'm sure there may be resources for people to go and check out. On that note, and there's a question from Sangeeta in the chat, the Q&A box, and though we said we'll take it up at the end, I thought this is a good time to bring it in, which is about saying, hey, what is the value that coaches, or how are coaches actually supporting organizations? Fantastic question, and let me, for a moment, wear my coach's hat and try to, answer that, and then move forward. I think it's a good segue to the rest of the conversation. So typically, since I work with a lot of, my coaching practice primarily is with executive and leadership clients, typically the kind of goals, or let's say, the asks, usually it starts off as an ask from the coach. And then we realize and we say, we have this dialogue and say, hey, it's a co-created ask. Yeah? I mean, it's not that you're asking and the coach can come and deliver this. I wish we could. We had the magic wand, but coaching is not a magic wand. And I say that first upfront. But it certainly can be co-created. So typically some of these goals would be like, better leadership styles, whatever that may mean. Yeah. Direct performance related goals. Somebody is consistently quarter upon quarter unable to deliver results, so that team is not performing well, underperforming teams. It could mean transitions. Enable somebody to be ready for 2 roles down the line, which is really, as Akhil spoke about, succession planning. In a way, you're supporting that. Effective and a more effective, leader, being more effective on the road. Sometimes it can also be about saying, the culture in this team needs to shift. And that again is such a grand sort of goal and dream, but actually it's possible. We've actually seen cultural parameters, or, I would say qualitative factors really shifting in teams through work with coaching. But I think if you ask me as a coach, there are 2 very important ways by which coaches bring in value. One is coaching, especially with external coaches, has become a fantastic outsourced partnership. Like, for example, organizations have reliable IT partners, right? They don't do it all themselves. The IT infrastructure, the working, everything is outsourced. And IT today is the backbone of, almost all organizations. So similarly, coaching comes in as an outsourced partnership. So as a coach, I am a very trusted, reliable, a partner who understands the organization, its dynamics, its nuances. I bring in bespoke solutions. I offer partnership in a way that is, makes sense for that organization. And you don't have to do all of it yourself. So that's one way. The other thing is to, enable leaders to embrace a more coaching style. Khil spoke about it. And, to just be, better leaders. Yeah. Include bring in coaching as a way of being. And there sometimes we wear in the role of a consultant as well, very clearly, where we enable them to do, let's say, leader as a coach workshops, coaching micro skill workshops and things like that. Yeah. We don't wear strictly a coach's hat, but more a coach trainer's hat. And we are able to do this. So largely, these are some of the asks that come to coaches, and happy to say that in most cases, coaches are able to deliver and support that. I'm also mindful of the time. So Ifti and Akhil, if you're okay, and we spoke about this, while we've spoken about our individual experiences about impact and how, we have seen coaching in organizations, I want to share a bit of data and statistics as well, really to show that I think coaching is no longer, especially if you look at Asian market, and of course, globally, most markets for that matter, coaching is not something that, people are testing waters with. It's now moved to a stage where it's, I won't say it's having a seat at the table, but it's here to stay. And I was just going through a couple of the research studies, and ICF again conducts research studies from time to time, the global coaching study being one of those. And I think from the year 2007, they keep running this study, and the latest one happened, the 2023 report. And I'm just going to dip in a little bit into that. And, I have some stats here that I want to speak about, because some of this was also quite a bit of, validation to, I think, the work we're all doing as, coaches here, and for leaders to know if you're considering embarking upon coaching or integrating coaching into your organization. So, first thing I want to talk about is the way coach practitioners, or, the coach's job, organizations, what do they want coaches for? The question that came, right? And the study says that it is to support, to enhance skills, resources, and creativity the client already has. So coaching is supposed to really be delivering the goods on that. And if you really look at it, in 2022, there were globally 1 lakh plus coach practitioners. And the interesting thing is this is a 50% increase over the 2019 projection, 50%. So you can look at in that COVID, the pandemic time, the way the coaching industry, the number of people who are becoming coach practitioners is increasing. And this includes people who are internal and external. So a coach is not just somebody like me who comes in as an external person, partner, and offers services, but it could be somebody like, Akhil in his earlier avatar, where he was a leader, but he was, deploying and employing coaching skills. The other thing that I want to talk about, because we are on Asia, is that Asia has actually led the growth of coach practitioners by 85% in this period. Asia has been one market where the number of coach practitioners grown by 85%, followed by Middle East and Africa. It's interesting. In Asia itself, there are 8,500 plus coach practitioners. If you really look at income and revenue from coaching, because that's one way to understand how this industry is growing. And the way it seems like it's about a 12% increase in this period, 2019 to 2022, by about close to over 50,000 USD. Again, I want to talk about why this corporate coaching space or coaching in organizations is something we really need to be watching out for, is because coaches who are actually specializing in business coaching. And I'm not making a pitch. I don't run coach training. So there's not a pitch for people becoming business coaches. But the data actually says that, coaches specializing in business coaching tend to have above average revenue and income from coaching. Primarily, I think, reflecting, a higher average level of fees per session. Yeah. And this is what the data says. The other thing that I want to talk about is 67% of coaching, close to 70% of coaching that's, being used today is business coaching. And what do I mean by business coaching? Business coaching includes leadership coaching, executive coaching, which is typically your C-suite, CEOs, CXOs, etc., business and organizations coaching, and small business coaching. And all of this together, it occupies about 70%. So, which only says that, coaching in organizations is really growing fast. The other statistic that I want to talk about is the profile of the client. And this one was a bit of a surprise to me when I looked at it. One often thinks that, it's really the executives where the data is more, but a lot of organizations are actually investing in coaching in the age band of 35 to 44 years and largely with managers. So managers is about 33%, followed by executives, which is about 18%. So I think all of these stats is really encouraging, both for coaches and for organizations to have that confidence that maybe there's something there in coaching. And which is why organizations locally and globally, and certainly in Asia, are beginning to invest in coaching. I'll take a bit of a pause here for Akhil and Ifti to add on before we move to maybe the last bit of the conversation.
No, I think you said it really well. And if you were to look at not just like what is happening in the industry, but how this is being deployed, and there was this question about where do coaches come in? I mean, look at an organization like Shell. They've brought in coaching to enhance their safety culture so that they had reduced incidents and better operational efficiencies. If you look at Harvard University, who brought in coaches to improve their organizational effectiveness and the quality of their research programs. If you look at an organization like Intel, they wanted to innovate faster, and therefore they brought in coaches to improve their innovation culture. And therefore, organizations are also choosing coaching as an intervention to help solve for their very specific needs. Marriott has, as a hospitality industry segment, has enough and more chains of hotels that are operating under the Marriott brand. But there were different cultures, and therefore, how do you have a consistent employee culture, and how do you have a consistent experience for a customer who walks into any Marriott chain hotel? Is what they brought in coaches to build and streamline that culture and having a consistent experience for their clients. So I think from that perspective, organizations are looking at coaching as an intervention to solve for specific business challenges that they are facing as they're expanding and evolving.
I can, just add to Akhil's list of, he mentioned from my own experiences also, all three. So like Google has, shifted to quarterly review of employees. So the managers had to give feedback, So they found what should we do? Because the managers told them it's not easy to give feedback. It's a difficult conversation. So how can HR help us? So they introduced coaching for those managers, unlimited coaching they offered to them. If you want to do these conversations and share this with your coach, what is your, these are very individual things. What is the fear of having that, conversation? So share with your coach and maybe it will help, So they found very successful. That was very specific deployment of coaching. I worked with recently Airtel Africa, which is now almost a global firm. So headquartered in Dubai, but they are, a large operation in many African countries. So, and that was very fascinating how, and, Airtel or Telecom is becoming FMCG company, So they brought Asian head of Unilever, in fact, who came, maybe ex or current, I don't know, but I met that guy a few times. So he came to make Airtel Africa as FMCG company, So, and he told me, I want to change this. And we have selected, coaches like you to help our, next level of leadership to do this, these new behaviors, basically, we want to inculcate because our industry is changing, So there's no training to do for them. So that was very interesting. And I what was really admired is that this guy, how good he defined, what he wants out of this. So again, it's impact also. He defined so well, he had 1 hour meeting with us that this is what I exactly want. This is a new behavior. This is coaching is the right solution to this, So we discussed and that was very, impactful and positive project. So similarly, I know a large organization here in Saudi Arabia has introduced coaching for their large project teams, So project teams were struggling, those team dynamics, like Vijay mentioned, and other things, how to deal with. So they found there are patterns in those teams, so how to deal with, so coaches can help, So they deployed coaching with those project teams to help them. So they found, amazing results. In fact, they are expanding now to more areas after learning that. So also I have found where the CEOs or senior people really taste coaching, they support a lot, So there's a big government authority here, and the CEO is such a fan of coaching. Even he introduced coaching for his family members, So I hope they are, ready for that. But he's for his kids, so he's such a fan. But his organization, he's transforming the organization of 6,000 employees, which is, in Saudi Arabia, authorities are changing the government style, They are highest paid people, better than Aramco and others, by the way. So this is how they are changing the government and Vision 2030 and etc. So coaching is like at the center of his transformation, enablement.
Okay. Thank you, FD. Beautifully you have said it. I mean, the phrase that's coming to my head is, if you have a goal, a coach can work or something like that, right? I mean, coaching is very goal driven. And sometimes it's interesting, right? Even when you're not very clear about your goals, but you have a direction, some kind of a purpose, I think coaching can play its part. Of course, there are certain limitations ethically and otherwise. Coaching, as my favorite one is to say to all clients, coaching is not a magic pill. It's not a panacea to all problems. Yeah, I mean, it's not a one-stop thing. But certainly it works much more than it does not. I can see a lot of questions in chat box. I'm just going to shift gears a little bit, and before we move into Q&A, I just want to, maybe all of us take one stab at this. We call out in our experience, again, lived experience as leaders, as coaches, maybe 2 or 3 top 3 critical success factors for coaching to really be able to create sustainable impact in organizations? Akhil, you want to go first?
I can. So I think in my view, I think that top management support and commitment towards coaching is very vital. If we do not have the commitment from the senior leadership to champion and they don't understand the value of coaching, then bringing in coaching is going to be hard. Similarly, this other piece I would say is that top level commitment then leads to resource allocation, whether it is budgets, time, people availability for off their job to come and be coached, etc. I think those two combined would be one of the big things that I would say is important. The second one is the organizational culture. If an organization is very hierarchical driven, there is what I would say is not a lot of psychological safety. People are worried about what happens, who speaks what about them, etc. Then that's going to be hard. Therefore, having the right organizational culture, as you talked about, the culture of learning, ensuring that there is psychological safety, where employees feel safe to take risks. They make mistakes, but they learn from them, and therefore it's a learning culture. Or places where there is development and continuous learning that's happening. That organizational culture, it's the environment that then becomes conducive to letting coaching mushroom and grow as a process and becomes a part of the culture. I think those are the two big ones for me. I would say the third one is more importantly is about confidentiality and trust, which is again linked to psychological safety. But those would be my top 2 or 3.
Thanks, Akhil.
Yeah, I agree with Akhil, and I think if they are in place, definitely then coaching is happening. But the bigger question is how to get that, right? So for those who don't have it, there is obviously enough demand for training or professional training, leadership training. So if you introduce coaching, maybe a lot of people ask me, how can we introduce? Our people don't know. So how can you educate? So you need to find some channels to create those environment in which you can educate, or create value in a smaller project or something. So maybe the leadership program, some training, or some small project where you can showcase the value, to the senior management. And that's maybe what create that what Akhil is asking for, So because you need to create definitely executive ownership and everything, but how to create that is also a big question.
Yeah. Fantastic. I mean, I just want to do like a +2 on whatever you all have said, but I just want to, for me, I think sponsor education is another very important piece. Because it's not about, creating the budget or bringing in a coach, but I think the sponsors, should know exactly. I've been quite surprised to see HR leaders who, are not very clear about coaching, and and I'm not very surprised because, I mean, it is understandable. It's part of your HR curriculum. There's no mandatory module on coaching, for example. But that being said, what is it? What can you expect? What are the boundaries? What are the limitations? That also makes sense because when you're buying a service, when you're on the other side, and when I look back, being on the other side, when I work with a partner, I want to know exactly what it's about. Otherwise, I can be taken for a ride. And that's not a good thing to have. So I think that education piece is important. And I think, as I said earlier, taking a systemic approach. Really, I think just, throwing in coaching as one nice to have thing with one little part of the organization is not going to make it sustainable, because what will then happen is either, people who have gone through coaching will work in very, very different ways and become misfits in the organization, or you might have a situation where, you're not able to really leverage on the gains that you make. Coaching, like anything else, needs to gain momentum, right? And for that, I think a systemic approach is important. I'm seeing 2 minutes left. I don't know whether we can get a minute or 2 extra, but maybe we will just take one. We'll pick one question each, and we can maybe wait back and answer it on the Q&A box before the next session starts. So if you want to pick any one question from there, I found one that I liked. Do coaches play the better role than mentors? That's a very tough one. And my short answer would be, I think they're very different roles. And it's like comparing apples and oranges. I think organizations need mentors, mentoring culture as much as they need coaches. If you want to pick one, maybe Akhil.
Yeah, I'm looking at the questions.
There's another tough one. Which countries are welcoming coaching culture with open arms? wants to
I
take
think
that?
it's difficult to answer. To be honest, coaching is more mature in some countries than others. That's all I can say. Like US takes, even in ICF membership, we have 60,000 members, half of them and in the US alone. So obviously, but other are catching up, very fast also. So yeah.
Akhil, any
Yeah.
favorite question there?
Uh, no, just saying about this piece about countries which are welcoming coaching culture. I think most organizations today are global organizations, and therefore what happens in one part of the world also impacts other parts. And therefore, if you see, you talked about the growth in Asia, you talked about how the number of coaches were there. The video that played in the beginning to say 4.6% of the world's GDP growth is going to come from India, China. If you were to look at it, half of economic growth is going to come from the Asia region. By 2050, we will have a 5.3 billion population. I think it's a piece that we should all reflect on, and especially I'm talking from an Asia context to say there is a very large growth story happening here in Asia. And there's a very large set of customers who are waiting to be served in different forms. Therefore, organizations are pivoting a lot on this part of the world, and you've seen the economic growth here. And therefore, when that happens, this need of ensuring that those leaders are successful in leading these businesses through these challenging times is going to be very important. And therefore, I would say there is a very large opportunity in the Asia space here.
All right. I think on that absolutely optimistic note, I'm certainly feeling energized. I hope all of you on this session are. We will close. I know we wanted to cover a lot more, but I said that was a very ambitious project, doing this in 1 hour. I hope we did okay. We will wait for a couple of minutes and answer the questions that have come. So if you have any further questions, please put it down. We will wait and we will answer those questions. But on behalf of Akhil and Ifti, my heartfelt thanks to all the organizers and to every one of you who are here joining us from different parts of the world. And here's to more power to coaching and more impact of coaching in organizations. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you all. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you to our wonderful panelists for the great discussion today. It was such a pleasure listening to you all give such valuable insights on the impact of coaching in organizations. Thank you all very much. Our next session topic is connecting to the voice in me. And I would request you all to stay on the same webinar for the next session. Thank you.